Okay, I know that I've had you in a class of mine before. You look kind of familiar. Have you been in one of mine before? Okay. Remind me your name. Sarah. Matt. Rowan. Awesome. And remind me, like, you just finished your course? Is that what you said? Okay, license active yet? Oh, okay. Okay. Course done, but haven't taken the test yet.
I just felt the national.
Gotcha. Okay. License active? Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Cool. They told you your score? Oh, weird. When I took mine, they didn't tell you. It was either you passed it or you didn't. Like, and I wanted to know my score because I'm competitive.
It didn't tell you where you were better sections?
It was just like you went up and it was either you passed it, you're good, or you're going to have to retake it. That's it. So I'm competitive. I wanted to know my score, but didn't tell me.
Now I do, I guess.
Yeah. 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 Cool. Well, so since I've never met you before. My name's Cody Fehlberg. I'm almost at 7 years licensed. In 2020, I was the KW Utah Rookie of the Year. My first full year in real estate, I sold 29 homes. And then the next year I sold 53, and then it's sort of landed in like the 40 to 50 range every year. The one thing that I am really proud of is that the last couple of years have been a real struggle for a lot of agents, right? And even, how's it going? Even with it being a real challenge for a lot of agents to find people who want to do something. Last year, I sold 48 homes in a really down year for a lot of people. And I ended up second among solo agents for this brokerage. Lane Thompson beat me, and he's awesome. If you know Lane, he's a good dude. But what's that? No, Lane's awesome. Actually, you know, it's funny. I had a good year. I felt good about it, but we have some ballers here. So I wasn't expecting really anything. So I went to the awards gala, and I was like talking to a guy from my last brokerage when they were announcing the like places, and all of a sudden I heard my name and whipped my head around in my face on the screen. I was like, what the? Yeah, I had no idea. I don't think anyone was more surprised than I was. But no, so the thing that makes me really proud of that is that that's a lot of clients who wanted to make something happen, and we were able to find something that worked for them, even though things are not super easy right now. So we're going to go through the buyer consult. So we'll go through MLS stuff in a little bit, but there's two big goals that I have when I go into a buyer consult, right? What is your number one objective at a buyer consult? First of all, do we know what a buyer consult is? That's what I should tell you, yes, but no. I mean, that's most agents. I know that we're supposed to have them sign stuff before we do anything. I don't. Largely because like they don't know me, right? They're referrals. I mean, they're pretty much always referrals. If I'm doing an actual buyer consult, they're a referral. If they're a past client, then obviously we don't need to do another buyer consult. But they don't know me. I'm not going to sit down with them the first time I meet them and ask them to sign something. And there's a big reason that I don't do that. And it's I have 100% confidence that they're going to hire me anyway. Wanting them to sign something right up front very quickly to me, it reeks of like desperation and insecurity. It's like, I need to lock you in now, or you're going to go talk to another realtor and you'll use them. That's what it feels to me. When we were buying our first house, I met a realtor that was referred to me by a dude that I knew not well. And literally the day that I met him, he sent me a buyer broker to sign. And then he resent it every day for a week. Like, to me, that just, you're desperate is the way that it feels, right? Now, when you're newly licensed trying to get clients, you are desperate. I get it. But you can't let that bleed through. You can't let them get a whiff of that desperation, all right? Because what happens is, in my mind, as a cynical and critical and judgmental person, and I'm aware that that's how I am, my mind, I go to, okay, if they are desperate to get my business, they're probably desperate to get anyone's business. They're probably desperate to get something closed. So they aren't going to be fighting real hard for me because they just want something to be done. They're not going to do things in a transaction that potentially risk the transaction, even when it's the best thing for me. They're going to try to talk me into homes that aren't the best fit because they want this to go faster, right? Like, it all speaks to me of they're going to sacrifice what's best for me to make something happen for them, right? So that's why in a buyer consult, listing appointment, whatever you want to do, or whatever you're going to be doing, you've got to make sure that you just eliminate like every bit of that, not just from what is perceived by the buyer, by the seller, whoever it's going to be, but you got to like get it out of here. Okay. Like, I am here for two purposes. One is I want to win the client. That's the main objective here. I want to win the client. Okay. The second objective for me is I want them to feel so comfortable and confident that I am only trying to make what's best for them happen. Okay. So for you, well, I guess let's talk realtors in general, right? I've got a buyer consult. I've got somebody that wants to buy a home. They say they think. When am I hoping that this, like, let's talk timeline. When is like an appropriate amount of time that this should take to buy them a home? What am I hoping is the timeline? And then what's an appropriate timeline from like meeting to closing? What's that? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Everybody sort of has like a different approach to it. There's a guy that I know that he does well. He's turn and burn. If you're not ready to do something right now, you're off the call list. We stick to people who are ready to do something now, right? There's no such thing as relationship building. There's no such thing as keeping in touch and following up with your SOI. He doesn't do that. That's fine. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want, like, this isn't a relationship thing for him. It's transactional. He wants to close. And he's a good negotiator. So good for him. But guess what happened? Guess what you have to do if that's your business model? What do you have to do to generate clientele? A lot of leads. You've got to be door knocking or sending out door knockers or lots of lead generating campaigns that you're paying for, right? Because you've got to meet new people all the time because you aren't maintaining relationships with people unless they're ready to do something right now. Okay. And that's fine, right? There's not like a right way to do real estate and to do lead gen. That's not how I do mine. So I'm okay with whatever their timeline is. So objective one is win the client. Objective two is I am ready to help you whenever that time is. They may begin the loan application process, which we're going to talk about and they're going to do. They may begin the loan application process and find out that, holy crap, we're not in the position we thought we were. We need to wait 6 months. I'm not done with them just because we have to wait 6 months, because we're just waiting 6 months. Why can't I help you in 6 months? Right? And so that's the second thing is I want them to make sure like, hey, yeah, I'd love to help you. Whether that's right now, whether it's a year from now, I'm good. We'll stay in touch. If now's not the right time, we'll stay in touch. Come use my Top Golf pass and go goof off at Top Golf. We'll keep in contact. But those are my two big goals. Okay, is to make sure that they feel good and they feel like I'm ready when you're ready. Right? So never, for me, I am never trying to talk someone into moving up their timeline that makes them feel confident. I'm never going to try to, and we'll talk about this a little bit too. I'm never going to try to like talk them into increasing their budget, into looking somewhere that they don't want. My goal is to just, through the whole process of searching, now before we're under contract, searching, whether it's the consult or showing them homes and working with them, my whole goal is I want to just make sure that we've thought about possibilities so that if you eliminate it, it's because we discussed it and it didn't make sense and we've eliminated it. Now you don't have to wonder. Because what I've had happen a lot of times is like, nope, that's not an option. Okay, fine, not an option. But we didn't discuss it a whole lot. And later they're like, oh, I would have done that. I'm like, well, you said it wasn't an option. And I didn't push back and really talk through it. So that's on me, right? But that's kind of the point of this buyer consult is I want to make sure that I win them and that they feel good and they know that I'm here to serve them. All right. Cool thing about real estate is, have any of you guys done sales jobs before? Okay. This is a sales job. Read sales books, please. Right? The tricky part is a lot of people, what do they think of when they think of salespeople? What's that? Annoying, sleazy. Okay. What's that? Pushy? Yeah. Do they think that salespeople are generally interested in serving them? No, no. Why do people think that? Because salespeople are like that, right? Like salespeople have earned the reputation that they have. And guess what? Realtors are in that category too. And it's really helpful that you are just realistic about what do people think of you. Because if you know what they think of you, you know how to combat that. If you're honest with yourself about here's what people are going to think, I have to act in ways from the jump, they're going to reshape how they view me. I don't care what they think of realtors. I care what they think of me. Okay, and this buyer consult is one of the first steps in that. So let me grab this whiteboard. We're going to talk through a few things that we've got to do in a buyer consult. And the first step is going to be different for me than it is for you, right? Because the first thing that I do in a buyer consult is I tell them about me. Now, I don't mean like my family, my religion, any like my hobbies, none of that, right? I am legitimizing myself, okay? And then I'm not going to talk about it again. I'm not the guy who's going to keep talking with my clients about how awesome I am. But I'm going to right off the bat. And then we're done, okay? So I tell them, be like, hey, so I'm actually not a member of the UCAR board. I'm a member of the Salt Lake board. I just have never changed since I moved from KW South Valley down to KW Westfield. But they have the Realtor 500 up there. They've got like 11,500 agents on their board. And I'm in the top 500 every year, right? Like I'm proud of that fact. Every year I'm in the Realtor 500. Hi, come on in. So I tell them that. You're like, hey, in a market, what have you heard about the real estate market in 2023 and 24 and 25? Be like, oh, it's way down. You're right, it is. Not for me. Okay, I know where I land in our brokerage, right? So for 2025, number 2 out of, I think we've got like 320 agents. Right? I'm proud of that fact. No, I don't. So this is so when Cameron was talking, maybe you weren't here yet. When Cameron was talking about Cody thinks he's different, right? I do, but that's partly because like when we typically hear the word systems, we think of like rigid, right? Like unbending, this is the way it happens. And I do have systems, but the way that I go through this, it will change depending on the client I'm meeting with. Because not everybody, some people come in and I don't have to do this because I know who referred them. And I know the person that referred them is not going to allow them to use anybody but me. And they come in knowing that, yeah, Kylie and Kelly told me that I shouldn't talk to anybody but you, right? So it's different. There's sometimes I don't have to do this. But what I'm going to go through is sort of like a bullet points. And I will get to every bullet point with every buyer consult, but it may not always come up in the same way. It's not necessarily structured, right? And that's, I think, part of what makes this work well for me is this is a very like open and flowing conversation, right? That it doesn't feel like a presentation because it's not. Just like what I'm doing with you. I don't have like a presentation, right? I have things I know I'm going to go through, but we'll go through them as like the situation calls for it. Okay. So yeah, so I'm not handing them any printed materials. This is just, if they want me to, I had, it was a listing appointment, but I had a listing appointment that was like, well, there are lots of realtors and they were referred to me by somebody who was referred to me by somebody else. So this is like playing telephone, right? Like they don't have any connection to me. The person that referred them to me also didn't really have any connection to me. So I felt like I've got to legitimize myself a little bit. And they straight up called me on like, well, we need you to like show us your accolades and your production. All right. So I showed up with a backpack full of all the awards that I've won. Right? At my last brokerage, there was this is before they separated team and group. And you'll see this, like if a team now is two agents together and a group is 3 or more. It used to be that team was any group of agents, 2 to 20. I had one agent, I'd fired all the other agents off my team. I owned a team called Wow House. I still call myself Wow House, but I had a team. Everyone was gone except for one, and the 2 of us were the #1 performing team at KW South Valley in 2023. And there were teams of 9, 10, 11 agents, right? So things like that. I'm super proud of that. Majority of that production was mine. But so anyway, so I brought a backpack full of awards. So hey, this is what I do. But that's not going to come up in every scenario. You just got to be ready to adapt. Okay. Now, again, this will be a little more difficult for you as you're new, right? You don't have like transactions under your belt to hang your hat on yet. And that's okay. Everybody starts somewhere. I started where you started. And you know how you avoid this being awkward? Just act like it doesn't exist. Act like you're the man, you're the woman, and act like they're going to be your client, and why in the world would they not hire you? Right? If you carry yourself the right way, almost never will people ask how long you've been doing it. And when they do, it's because now I get people asking me, like when I'm in homes, showing them homes, and I'm pointing a million different things, there's some leverage there. There's some leverage there. I see we've only got women's stuff in the closet, but there's family photos. He's gone. This is probably a divorce. And they're like, dang, how long have you been doing this? That's where it comes up now. It never used to come up before. So it won't come up as often as you think. How many homes have you sold? How long have you done this? But it won't come up if you carry yourself the right way, right? A lot of confidence. So the first thing I do is I tell them about me. Here's what I do that's great. Now, all right, now done, let's move on. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Second thing is you're going to talk about them. And there's a few things that I want to know, okay? The hard part here is that like I try to make these relatively quick. Because not just for me, but like I want to be respectful of their time, right? They don't want to, like, they're not here to hang out generally. So I want to make it fairly quick. So I'm not going to ask about all their hobbies and stuff. And it's not because I don't care. I'll learn all that stuff as we're going through this process, right? So it's not that I don't care and never want to hear it. I'm not going to ask about it here, right? I also, I don't care about income. I don't care about what they're qualified for. Usually, well, I won't say usually, I would say about half the time they've already run a loan application with somebody. And so a lot of times they kind of know what they can afford and can't afford. One thing that I tell them that I think helps legitimize me and helps them feel really confident in me, I say it every time. I don't care what your approval amount is. You tell me the budget. As long as you qualify for that, we're good. Why do I mention that? Okay, think about what people think of realtors. What do people think of realtors? Salespeople. What do people think of us? Self-service. Greedy, right? If I can get them to spend more, I make more, right? Yeah. I don't want them to think, so I'm never going to encourage them to increase their budget. But there are times that I have to say, hey, the things that, and we'll talk about this in a minute, the things that you're telling me you want, those are going to be really hard to find in the budget that we've got. So either we just got to be really patient and know that not a lot of homes are going to come through that check the boxes and see them when they do. Or if you're a little bit more urgent on timeline than that, we may need to adjust something. Now, maybe we're adjusting where we look and we're farther out and we can find that in that budget. Or we talk about, do we want to and can we change the budget? No, so I've got a mortgage broker that I send all my clients to. Even if they come in with an approval for another lender, I say, okay, I need something from you. I need your loan estimate that they gave you, and I'm getting that to my lender. Because A, he'll almost always beat them on price and rate. And B, he and his team aren't going to F up. And I had too many lenders F up that weren't my lender, but clients wanted to use them. And then my lender either swooped in and saved the day or cost us homes sometimes. Okay. So the about them, I want to find out their desired budget. Okay. And I always ask how they came to that number. If they haven't done a loan application with anybody yet, this is going to be like guesswork on their part, right? And where do they usually have that pulled from, do you think? What's that? Okay. But where do they figure out if it works for them? Where do they figure out if that is something they can afford? Okay. Mortgage calculators online. Why is that not accurate? What's that? They have no idea what their interest rate is going to be. Maybe their credit is freaking awful, right? Maybe they think that, oh, that rate that I see on the billboards, somebody's getting that, so maybe I can get that. But they don't realize that's with like a perfect credit score 20% down, right? Most buyers that you will be working with, especially early, will be first-time buyers. Very, very few first-time buyers have even a 5% down payment. Because who is buying right now? Renters. Because they're the only ones that are still flushing away more money than they're getting value in than if they were to buy their own house. So even though prices suck, rates suck, it still is oftentimes a better option to go buy something, right? Get some value. So you want to find out where the desired budget is. I want 550. Okay, great. Can you tell me where you got that number from? I'm not challenging them. I want to know. Say, oh, I got it online. Okay. What I would like you to do, I'd like you to at least have a conversation with my lender. If you don't want to do loan application yet, that's totally fine. If you don't want to have them pull your credit yet, that's totally fine. However, it's going to be hard for us to really know where a payment will land for you until we've done that. So you'll tell him what payment you're comfortable with. And this is the other thing I love about my lender is generally they just ask, where's a payment you're comfortable with? And there's the budget they tell you. And do you qualify for that? They generally don't say, oh, you're approved for up to $900,000 because the payment they're comfortable with is $650. So they don't even talk about the 900 grand. They say, oh, you'll qualify well above that. You're good. Okay, that's another reason I love my lender. It helps them if they spend more money, if they borrow more money. They generally don't do that either. So desired budget, where did you get it from? Okay, and then I'm going to put right here criteria. And this is where early on, most agents are really scared of losing the client. So when the client says something that you can kind of tell is not going to work, well, my budget's 500. I want a brand new build, 5-bedroom in Linden. Holy hell. Okay. Most agents will not give any pushback right then because they don't want to lose them. Right. But are we creating a super helpful and supportive environment right now? No. I tell my clients, hey, I'm going to help you be realistic. I'm a super optimist. My wife hates it. Like nothing is bad. Everything's just obstacles. But in this moment, I'm trying to help you be realistic because what changes whether they are happy or pissed at the end of a transaction? And is it the outcome? Whether they're happy or mad is not the outcome. The same outcome can happen for two different people. One is happy, one's mad. It's how different was the outcome from the expectation. And if you let there be a huge gap or you don't address it till you're far in, now there's frustration. And whether it's your fault or not, you are now a part of this frustrating experience. Okay? So when they give me their criteria, before I go into their criteria, I say, okay, and Matt, right? Say, Matt, I'm here to help. My entire goal is at the end of this, we're in a home that you are happy with where it landed you cost-wise, you're happy with the home, and 18 months, 2 years down the road, you feel like, based on what was going on at the time, I made a good decision. That's what I want to be a part of, is a good decision. So I'm going to ask you some questions and challenge you a little bit on some of these things, because if you're frustrated with me, even though it may not all be my fault. So I want to make sure we get ahead of that and avoid that as much as possible. I don't want you to be upset, frustrated, stressed, whatever. I want to remove as much of that stress and frustration as I can. So when you tell me that you want 4 bedrooms, help me understand, do we need 4 bedrooms or do we need 3 bedrooms and an office? When you say 3 bathrooms, do we mean 3 bathrooms where someone could shower, or do we mean 2.5 bathrooms? When you say 2,000 square feet, why? I can show you a home that's 1,800 square feet that will feel bigger than one that's 2,200 square feet, depending on the layout, right? So I'm going to go through, I'm going to clarify these things. What is it about that number that has you thinking that that's your criteria? When you say 1/3 of an acre, what are we doing with it? You have a baby. It's you two and a baby, no pets, 1 kid. Well, we want to be here long term. Okay, you're not going to be here longer than 5 to 7 years. If you had a kid every other year, your kids will be too little to enjoy a full 1/3 of an acre by the time you sell this house. So do we really want to pay what it's going to cost us to get a 1/3 of an acre property? So again, these are conversations that you're having, okay? So you're not challenging them on it, you're clarifying. I want to understand. So when I say you're learning about your client, you are, right? Because all of this will come out. It needs to be in this location. Okay, why do we need to be in American Fork? What are we trying to be close to? Are we trying to be close to family? Do you work in office? Okay, you work in office twice a week. And where is that? Oh, it's up by the Hale Center Theater in Draper. Okay, sweet. So American Fork, are we talking like that's like the farthest south you'd go? Is that why we're doing this? Well, yeah. Okay, tell me about the drive time that you're looking for, commute time. Did you guys know that on the MLS, you can search by commute time? And the map gets all crazy because it takes into account speed limits, is freeway with no traffic lights. Okay, it's pretty cool. And a lot of people tell me, well, I can't because I need to be within 30 minutes. Like, okay, well, do you know that you could actually get all the way up past Bountiful? Like, what? So it opens areas they don't know are possible. Now, that doesn't mean they want to. That's okay. But we're just trying to clarify. Because at the beginning, do I want a really narrow focus or a really broad focus? Broad. Because if there's 400 options, okay, sweet. Now I can start being a little bit picky. Now I can rein it in. Okay, well, maybe I don't want to consider anything outside of 20 minutes. All right, that brings in a little bit. All right, well, maybe I don't want to consider anything over 600. Okay, that brings it in. Maybe I want only homes with a 2-car garage. Brings it in. Okay, and once we get to a spot that, okay, yeah, I feel like I've still got a lot of good options there. Let's start there. Okay, but you know what causes frustration? Being too narrow. There's nothing that checks my boxes. Yeah, because you were really specific. Yeah, everything feels like, ugh, all right, that's not what I wanted. Okay, well, let's talk about bare minimums. And that's a phrase that I use a lot when we're talking about criteria. Give me your bare minimum. It has to have this. And then I go into wants. Okay, if all things are created equal, what would it have? So I've got a client right now. We're going to go see a home right after I teach this. His wants list, there's a pool. But as long as there is space for a pool, he's a contractor. He can dig and build the pool. But if there was a pool already in right now, that's even better. Okay. He wants a big detached shop, 3-car plus, separate from his garage. That's like the ideal. He's okay if there's just space for him to build one. Right? So we're going sort of like worst case scenario, best case scenario. Right? So that's what I go through and I ask for minimums, okay? What's the bare minimums? Right? Timeline. And again, I start with, what is the ideal timeline? And do you know what I want to hear? I'm a realtor. I want to get paid. What do I want to hear? What's that? Wrong. Yeah, I don't care. I have a client that in December, we finally closed on a home for them. We had been looking at homes for 2 years. We finally closed on a home. Now, the reason it took a long time is because they were very specific on what they needed and could afford. And so it took us 2 years to find something that checked those boxes. But not a lot came up in between. So we were seeing a home like every other month, right? The amount of total work that went in was not any more than a normal client. It just was spread out over a long period of time. I'm okay. If I'm going to tell people that I care about them and I care about what's best for them, then I freaking better act like it. Right? And you guys, again, it's really good for you to understand that these are the problems with our industry. Most people say, I hear agents say all the time, and this is frustrating as hell, especially new agents or agents who aren't doing much volume. Okay? They say, and I say, okay, what's your pitch? You're going into a buyer consult. What's your pitch? Why should they hire you? They could go and hire anybody else and pay the same, which is, as a buyer, zero. They're getting a seller to pay it. So they can get Michael Jordan at the same price as they get last pick of the draft rookie. Why are they taking this rookie? Okay. The response I get a lot is, well, no one's going to care about them more than I do. Well, that's just not true. How in the world can you even know that? There are a lot of really good-hearted people in this industry. Unfortunately, a lot of them do almost no volume. Okay? You're not going to care about them more than everybody else would. Right? And if you do care about them, then you won't really care. Now, that's different than saying, hey, it's gotten to the point where I cannot afford to keep doing this because it feels like you are not actually prepared to accept what you can get. And I've had clients I've done that with. Now, I'm not telling them I won't work with you. Say, hey, what you're telling me you want, and the price that it has to be at for you to do it, it isn't out there. And why do I know? Because we've looked. We've gone and seen what your budget affords, and you don't want it. We can find what your budget affords in other places. You won't go there. I'm not telling you should adjust. But if neither of those things are willing to budge, then I think let's hold off until something changes. I'll help you whenever the time is right. I feel like we're spinning our wheels and you're getting frustrated. And I want to avoid that frustration for you. So again, I'm pitching it as this is for you, not for me. I don't care about wasting my time. Every client takes a different amount of time. I have a client we're putting under contract today. I have shown them 4 homes and they love one and we're making an offer. Sweet. That doesn't happen a lot. I have others that take months, right? So it balances out. I'm not worried about it if it takes a while. So when I ask them, what is your ideal timeline? A lot of first-time buyers, which is again, who you'll be working with mostly at the beginning, a lot of first-time buyers don't have an ideal timeline. And what do when they say, I'm not really sure, we're not urgent, what should your response be? How should you respond to them? So Rowan, you asked me what my ideal timeline is, and I say, I'm not really sure. We're on a month-to-month contract, so just kind of whenever. Okay, is that a good thing, a bad thing, or just doesn't matter?
They needed it.
So what you're thinking is, in order for them to be serious, there has to be a deadline looming that makes this need to happen. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Okay. Do you think that everybody that wants to buy a house has this like impending doom coming if they don't by a certain time? No. Okay. I tell them, awesome. Awesome. I love that. You know why I love that? It allows us to be really intentional and take our time. Not because I wanted to take more time, but what happens, let's say your lease is up in 60 days. Okay. Let's say you specifically, are you married? Okay. Let's say that you are renting a place by yourself. Your lease is up in 60 days and you know you want to buy a house this year. So you don't want to sign another lease because you're hoping to buy a house this year and you don't want to break a lease, all that kind of crap, right? So what's the average transaction time from contract to close? It's about 30 days, which means you've got 30 days to get under contract on a house. Okay? Is making sense so far? So you've got this deadline. As that 30-day window shrinks and you're not finding something you like, guess what's going to start happening? You're going to stress out. You're going to start talking yourself into homes that weren't the right fit. Okay? Now, it's okay if clients do have a deadline. That's fine. But I love it when they don't because I'm like, hey, we're going to find the right one. The fact that you aren't in a rush is great because it allows us to avoid potentially talking ourselves into, and do you notice I'm saying we and ourselves, that kind of stuff? The moment that we meet, I am your realtor. I'm going to talk as if I am your realtor and as if we are making a purchase. You're not buying a house and I'm not helping you do it. We are buying a house, okay? We aren't going to talk ourselves into a home that isn't the right fit because you don't have a deadline. That's great. Okay? I have clients I've now shown gone out with them twice, only twice. Last Thursday was the second time. The Wednesday before that was the first time. Both times in a 2.5-hour window, 6:30 to 9 p.m. That's the only time they can go. We saw 10 homes each night. We are flying from house to house, from Sandy to South Jordan to Taylorsville, just swinging all around the place. That's not fun. I don't love that. Partly because I feel like we're not able to get a really good, deep view of homes, neighborhoods, right? So what are we doing? We're seeing, do I like this home enough to maybe take a second longer look? That's kind of what we're doing. And we're trying to decide, I don't really know how long it takes to get out to that part of Taylorsville where I can get more for my money. So let's go check it out. And now I've made the drive. I like the house, not enough to think about this area though, right? So we're eliminating some things, and that has to happen for some people. And that's okay. So again, I'm going through here, I'm saying, hey, Your timeline's good. But they told me, the very first thing they told me was, are you going to get frustrated with us if we've seen 15 homes and haven't made a decision? No. I'm not out here trying to convince you to buy a house. I don't care what you do. You want a house, I'm ready to help. You tell me what house that is. And then I go to work and I get you the house, right? And I get it for you as low as we can get, okay? So I'm going to ask about the timeline. When they say it's open, awesome. I love that. That allows us to be patient and intentional, make sure we get you something you feel good about, okay? Here's what I am going to do though. When they give you this criteria that is batshit crazy, because people will, right? Or if they're just like, I don't know, just kind of like anywhere. I work remote, so anywhere under 500, be like, okay, like, do we literally mean anywhere? Are we like Grantsville? I can get you a brand new build with a 3-car garage for 500 grand in Grantsville. Well, no, not Grantsville. Okay, so all right, so there are places that we won't go. Now let's define some things. I'm going to show you guys a few things on here that I pull this up and I do this with them sitting right there, okay? I go in here. How many of you guys have played around with the MLS? Do any of you have access yet? Okay. It allows you, it allows you to be much more detailed on a search than they can be on the MLS. First thing you want to do is right here in the buyer consult, by the way, I go in here to clients, client manager. You see this? I'm going to click add new client. And all it requires is their first name, last name, and email. And what they'll get is they'll get an email that says, it's from utahrealestate.com, and it says, Cody Fehlberg wants to connect. What that does is that attaches them to your MLS account. So when they favorite homes, it sends them to you. It tells you what they favorited, right? So the first thing I do is say, okay, first, where have you been looking for homes? Remind me your name. I've met you before. Brandon. Brandon, where have you been looking for homes online? No, sorry, what website? Zillow, okay. Can I ask a huge favor? Can you stop? Okay. First of all, every time you click something on Zillow, Zillow is selling that to a realtor. Did you know that? They are selling your info to a realtor. That's how I get clients. Just kidding. I work off of referrals, but at one point I did internet leads. Okay. So they're selling your info to a realtor, which means you're going to get unwanted calls, people you don't know, have no connection with, and people that don't have connections with their own database to the point where they have to pay someone to give them leads. So I'm poo-pooing all of this, even though I used to do it. Okay. Also, Zillow pulls their info from the MLS. And there have been enough times that it's incorrect that you want to go to the source that came from, because this is going to be the most accurate. So utahrealestate.com, that's what, and these are phrases that I actually use. That's what realtors use. That's what we use to list homes and search for homes. It's going to be the most accurate and the most up-to-date, so it'll be the most helpful for you. Now, it's utilitarian. There is an app you can use. It's not nearly as pretty as Zillow or Realtor.com's websites or apps, but it's going to be the most helpful, right? So let's get you on the MLS. I'm going to send you an invite that connects you to me. And here's what's really great about it is it's going to start sending me the homes that you favorite. And the reason I like that is because sometimes the criteria that you gave me does not fit the homes you're favoriting. I like to see that disconnect as early as I can, because if there is a disconnect and the homes I'm sending you aren't ones you like, but it's because the ones I'm sending you are based on criteria you gave me, then we've got to get over that, or you're going to get frustrated with me and you're going to get frustrated in general. I don't want to avoid that. Stress, frustration, I'm out to keep you from all of that. So I want to see the stuff you favorite, because if it's different and your head and your heart are not aligning, I want to have that conversation and say, hey, what do we need to adjust? Do we need to adjust the criteria, or do we need to adjust what you are looking at? And again, I'm doing this ahead of time. Every time they're like, that makes sense. That's great. Okay. But also, why do I want them looking here where they're connected to me instead of Zillow, Realtor.com and stuff? If they have a buyer broker agreement with you, a Zillow realtor calls them, They don't get that that Zillow realtor is not the listing agent of the home they favorited. They don't understand. They think, oh, they called me because it's the listing agent. They're not. So then they go and see a home with that guy, not thinking that they're screwing you at all. They sign a buyer broker with him. Now they've got 2 buyer broker agreements. That client is committed to pay 6% commission when they buy a home. You could come after them for it if you wanted to. We're not going to because we're not dicks. But don't and again, don't allow them to get in that situation. Like, hey, can I ask a favor? Just stay off of those. People will call you. You know what? If you do use one of those, you disobey me, and somebody calls you, tell them you already have a realtor. They'll get off the phone. Even if you just want people off the phone, if you're not sure if you want to work with me yet, totally fine. I get it. We just met. If you want to get realtors that call you off the phone, tell them you already have a realtor. They're not going to ask their name. You don't have to show them anything that you've signed. We're good. Just use me as an excuse to get them off the phone. Okay, so this is the first thing I do in my consult with them is I have them give this to me. It emails them. I have them connect right there, and then they can off and away. They can start searching and favoriting properties. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to help because I don't know when they give me criteria if they're crazy or not yet, right? And a lot of times they don't know either. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this. Okay, so Matt, do you own a home? Okay. If you were buying a home right now, what do you think your budget would be? What would you want it to be? Oh, that's another clarifying. When I ask their budget, I'm never asking what they can afford. Where do you want the budget? Right? What are we shooting for? Okay, so we'll go 600. Okay. And by the way, you can just have to type that. It'll put the other 3 zeros in there. Okay, are you hoping for single family? Are you okay with townhomes, twin homes? Single family only. Okay, so single family only. Do you have a preference on style? Rambler, 2-story?
No real preference.
Okay. Do you for sure want a basement?
Yes.
Okay, he for sure wants a basement. So I'm going to scroll down. By the way, there is an option right. Where the hell is it? Right here. For basement, you can choose basement type. I don't do that because some agents don't even freaking click it. So if I click that, I'll miss the listing because they didn't do it right. So I'm going to go all the way down here to square footage by level. And I'm going to go to, okay, basement needs to have more than 200 square feet. So it'll show me homes that have a basement. Okay. He didn't say how big it needs to be. These have a basement, right? Okay. How many bedrooms do you need?
Bedroom.
So again, I'm act like we have not had that conversation yet, right? How many bedrooms do you want? Okay, 4. Now, just really quick, do we need 4 bedrooms or do we need 3 bedrooms and then another space? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do 3 bedrooms here, okay? Because if it has a den or an office, that won't be counted as a bedroom unless the listing agent did it incorrectly. What does it have to be a bedroom? Do you know, for them to be able to call it a bedroom on the MLS, what does it have to have? Window. It actually doesn't have to have a closet. Do you know that? They can throw a wardrobe in there and it counts. And I've done that on listings where we needed to be able to count another bedroom. So I bought a wardrobe on KSL classifieds and went and put it in. So it just has to have a window. And then I can't remember what the minimum square feet is, but it has to be a certain size and height and ceiling height. Can't remember what that is though. Okay, so 3 bedrooms. So I'll look for, ones that have another space as well. Square footage. Okay, around 2,000. So what I'm going to do, Matt, is don't get annoyed with me. I'm going to throw like 1,700 here, okay? And the only reason I'm doing that is because some of the older homes that I'll send you, they might be 2,000 square feet and they'll feel tiny. And some that I'll send you will be 1,700 square feet and they'll feel bigger. Okay, so I think it's more about how the square footage is used. So I'm going to just go ahead with that. Is that okay? Okay, and again, I ask them. Some people are very rigid and they'll tell you no, that's fine. If you only want to see things above this and you'll get annoyed if I send you anything else, cool, let me know. Here's the other thing though is, Matt, I know you said 600. I'm going to change this. Okay. And it's not because I want you to spend more. If it's listed at 620, does that mean they're going to get 620? Does it mean that we would have to pay 620 to get it? No. So I'm going to go just a little bit above that, all right? Because they may be ripe for a price reduction. I got a client under contract on Friday, $95,000 below the list price. Okay? It happens all over the place. So I'm going to fudge this a little bit, but just because I send it to you doesn't mean we have to go see it. You would be letting me know if you want to see it. Okay? Okay, so we can see we've narrowed it to 1746. Now this is where I say, where do we want to be? And a lot of people say, I want to be within 30-minute drive of ... Or they'll tell you, I want to be in Pleasant Grove, Linden, American Fork, or Lehigh. Okay, great. What about that area? Why? Well, I work here and I don't want to be farther than this. Okay, great. Can I make a suggestion? If you for sure want to be in Utah County, totally fine. But there are areas that actually will be within your desired commute time that you probably don't think you can look in. So let's do this. So where you see this little car right here on the right. So this is a radius tool. It lets you search like within a 2-mile radius, whatever you set, of an address. So for example, I'll just put my address. Okay, so we'll go like, okay, within 2 miles of okay, so it gives me a circle, right? Within 2 miles there. Here you can like do a box. I can go, I want to look in here, right? This is a polygon tool. So if I'm like, oh, I want to be sort of like this shape here, you can do that. Okay, anyway, I don't use that a ton. But the car, I can choose a, actually, so let's say I worked at the Hale Center Theater. I can't remember what the address is. But anyway, I'll just put an address of, this is my parents' address. They live in Orem. Okay, so I want to be within a 30-minute commute with an arrival time of 9, because that's when I have to be there in the morning. Now watch what the map does. See how it goes all the way down here, all the way up here? Okay. And it actually probably goes like this, but sometimes the MLS sucks and is annoying. And it's not showing you all that. Yeah, because it should be going all this way too. So I would close my browser and do it again. But anyway, so that's what it'll do is it'll take, all right, based on traffic patterns at 8:30-ish in the morning, where could they be looking that gets them there by 9? Right? So that's really helpful when people tell you where they want to look and you find out why. I want to be close to this, that, whatever it may be. Okay? Do you guys have any questions about any of this?
So I can see that maybe remember.
So you can have a paper or a note on your phone with like bullet points you need to talk about and just like mark them off as you go.
Like specific things about them that I made CRM, so I know how to follow up.
So I take notes. Yeah, I take notes. Yeah, as I'm going through, like when we get to, specifically when we get to the criteria and the timeline, I take notes on it. Yeah. But also, my wife hates it because I remember everything and forget everything. Like if you tell me what your criteria is, I'm not going to forget it. I'll know. And then when I'm like looking at a house, be like, oh yeah, this works for these guys because da 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 da. But then my wife will ask me to do something and 17 seconds later I've forgotten it, right? Anyway, so yeah, I do take notes on what we discuss. But I find that this is really helpful to go through with them sitting right there, because from the jump, they're seeing, hey, do you see how what you told me you want? There's 7 options. And let's look at those 7 options. And I click on the listings. They're like, ugh. Like, now we can keep this if you want. Do we want to adjust anything? Right? And some people would be like, no, unfortunately, that's the criteria I have to work with. So I think maybe let's just wait until things come up that fit. Okay, great. I'm good whenever. Right. Again, it depends on the person, but 99% of the time, I will not have them signing a buyer broker that day. And I actually will bring that up. Say, hey, I'm sure that you know that there's things that I would need to have you sign to represent you. I'm not going to have you do that right now because we just met. You don't really know me. It may be that we go out and see homes and you're like, this guy is annoying. I can't stand him. I don't want to work with him. Okay, great. I don't want you to be locked into working with me if you don't want to work with me, right? Luckily, I'm busy and you need me more than I need you. And then I start laughing because it's a joke, but it's not a joke, right? I have a client that they were interviewing realtors. They lived in Texas. They were a referral from my cousin. And I was the first one they talked to. They told me they were talking to 4 more realtors. I was like, great, that's good. You should do that. A few things you should ask every realtor you talk to when you're trying to figure out who you want to use. How many homes have they sold in the last 3 months? That matters because if they haven't sold any or they haven't sold many, then they want to check. They want to check soon. And potentially your best interest might be sacrificed to make that happen. But also you want someone that knows the current market well enough to know what they can make happen for you. People need to be selling homes in the last 90 days to make that happen. 2, what do they do specifically to get you more of what you want? If they don't know, if they don't have an answer ready to go, it's because they don't know. They don't have a strategy. They're just winging it and hoping that you're willing to pay enough that the seller says okay. Right? That's kind of how it goes. So I told them to ask that. And I told this guy, hey, ask them this. I can tell you that those people will need your business. I don't need your business. I would love to help. I'm busy. Here's what I make happen for my clients. Over 24 and 25, my clients saved an average of 9.6% off of list price on the homes that we bought. That's price reduction and concessions combined. $500,000 home, that's almost 50 grand. That's a significant amount of money. I'm really proud of that fact. So he called me back like 4 days later. He's like, all right, we've talked to all the other agents. You're who we want to hire. And then we just went off and away. And the first time they flew up and we were looking at a home in person, he goes, Cody, do you know why we hired you? I'm like, no. And he goes, it's because you basically told me that we need you more than you need us. And I turned to my wife when we got off the call and was like, that is like the biggest flex. I want that guy. But again, you want to present, I'm not desperate, right? I would love to help.
Hold this like however short.
Yeah, sometimes they have a bunch of questions. Sometimes they don't.
Based on like, that's your first they want to hire you. Like,
Yeah, usually. Yeah. People generally, like I said, most of my business now is referral. So these like an actual buyer consult where I'm having to like kind of like sell them on me, that doesn't happen a lot anymore. It still happens. Listing appointments is different. Listing appointments, like because they are the ones actually paying out of pocket, they have a lot more, I won't say questions, but they have a lot more concern about who they hire. Unfortunately, do you know what the numbers are? Do you know the numbers show that over 80% of buyers hire the first realtor they talk to? They don't know if this person's good, bad. Do they sell homes? Do they not sell homes? How long have they done this? They don't know anything about them, right? They hire the first person they talk to. But it's because they're not paying for it, so they're less picky. But what happened is the last couple of years when market got hard, rates got high and everything, a lot of you'll probably see that a lot of agents that used to do like 5 to 10 transactions a year are doing like 0 now. Last year we had like over 3/4 of all agents in Utah sold 0 homes. And it's because when things got challenging, people started being a little more intentional about who do I hire to help me buy a home even. That's kind of always been the case with sellers, but it's shifted a little bit and buyers are doing a little bit more. So, yeah. But again, like the big thing is just, you want to just present yourself in the way that like, hey, I'm here for the outcome. The outcome for you has to be a good one or I didn't do my job. Right? So, beyond this, the other thing, I'm going to wrap up in just a minute, but beyond these things, okay, where you're kind of taking them through who you are, And again, in all these conversations that you have with them about the criteria and stuff, whether you've done transactions or not, when it comes across to them that like, dude, he's clearly done this a bunch of times. She's clearly had this conversation a bunch of times. That can sell them on you without ever having them think or ask, how long has she done this? How many homes has he sold? Right? So the way you approach that gives them confidence or doesn't.
How do you do it when you've never seen?
Just have these conversations just the way that we've kind of like gone through. If you're very structured on, okay, let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. You're jotting notes down. Okay, let's talk about this. Now I'm going to push back a little bit. You said this. Why that? Is this a possibility? I don't want you to get frustrated because right now I tell people like, I have clients who ... You won't be able to say that. That's okay. You say, hey, a lot of buyers ... I want to avoid that. So ... Right? So when you have these conversations, you give everybody knows the fake it till you make it. It's real. It works, right? If I talk as if I'm doing this a million times, then it'll kind of come across that way. And you'll have to practice. My wife hates driving in the car, just the two of us, because she knows I'm going to be like, okay, I've got this transaction. We're trying to get the seller to do this. So if you were the agent on the other side and I called and said, I want this, what would your response be? She hates it. I make her do it all the time. And then she comes back and says, well, I would do this. Okay. And if she's not there, I have conversations with myself back and forth. If they ask me for this, my response would be this. So if I know that they're going to respond that way, how am I okay, like I do this all the time. And so you're going to have to practice having these conversations. I don't like calling it role play because it's not like, don't play pretend. Say the things you would really say. If you were a buyer sitting down with a realtor and they said this, how would you feel? What would you think? So if you've got someone you can have those conversations with, it's super helpful. I know that everybody has this like mental block about role playing, whatever. That's stupid. Like it's so helpful. Anybody that is good at what they do practices it. All right. So you want to use lots of inclusive language, and I don't want to use that in like the woke inclusive language phrase, right? But like when you are a potential buyer talking to me, I'm saying we and us constantly. You aren't doing this, we are doing this. We are buying a home. What do we want? Okay, so tell me criteria, what are we looking for? Right? Have we got a loan approval already? Okay, I'm using these phrases. Okay, couple things. So I'm gonna go through this really fast. So I say, okay, do you want a full-blown breakdown of what the process is going to be like, or do you want me to just give you a quick little like rundown? People will say, oh, I mean, I think I have a good handle on it. They don't. I think I understand. Be like, okay, cool. That's great. Let me just give you a quick bullet point how the process goes. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have you talk to my lender. And I would encourage you all to identify a go-to lender. Let me tell you something that you're going to be tempted to do. You're going to be tempted to choose a lender who is trying to win your business right now, who's telling you they'll go 50-50 on marketing materials for you. They'll, they do client events you can participate in, blah, 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 blah. Do you know why you don't want to use those guys? Generally, do you think those are guys who are established or who are new? New. Please, in this current market, do not hitch your wagon to a new loan officer. They may be well-intentioned, but I had a listing that was supposed to close 2 weeks ago. I was on the list side. The day before closing, buyer ends up finding out that they didn't qualify for the freaking purchase price because the loan officer's an idiot. He didn't take into account their student loan payments, that now the DTI was too high, they couldn't qualify. So the buyer loses their earnest money and can't buy the house. Okay. And I had a conversation with him, with the loan officer at the beginning. Like, hey, want to make sure you've gone through everything. You feel good about the approval. Have you got statements? He's like, yeah, we've got everything. It's a full approval, not a pre-approval. Awesome. Okay. So when it falls apart and I call him, he tries blaming other people. I'm like, no, Pete, this is you. Well, yeah. Okay. So please don't choose a new loan officer. It is better right now for you. So by the way, my loan officer, I send him probably 20-ish buyers a year that he closes. He closes a lot from my pipeline. He gives me zero marketing money. He pays zero towards leads. He doesn't contribute to client events for me. I don't want it. I don't need it. Save that crap for when my client needs a lender credit to get across the finish line. Save that for doing things that make things work for my clients. You get my clients across the finish line and we're good, right? It is well worth it for me to have a lender that does his job right and does it well and takes care of my clients, because that's why my people come back to me. It's not because I do a movie event twice a year that they get to come watch a movie for free and save $40, right? The client events that I do, they're not really events. I let people use my Topgolf pass. I take them to Topgolf. I send them crap throughout the year randomly. It's just not what most people try to, like, they think that they need to do, okay? So at one, I'm going to get you to my lender. You at least need to have a conversation with him. If you've got a loan approval already, that's great. Send it to him and let's see if he's got a better deal for you. If he doesn't, great. Let's stick with who you've got. But I'm going to call your lender and vet them. And I will tell you if I have concerns. I don't always, but I'll tell you if I do. Okay, so first, let's get with the lender. Second, you're going to start favoriting homes. And the other reason that I like connecting with them on the MLS, and I tell them this, be like, hey, you can just shoot me a text and say, hey, Cody, we just favorited 6 homes. Can we go see these? Awesome, great. I'm not going to go out and show you one home unless your criteria is kind of strict and there aren't a lot of homes that check the boxes, then we'll go out and see one home. But if there are a bunch of homes that could work, let's go see multiple. I show like 40 homes a week right now. It's exhausting. I'm not going to go out for one. Okay, so when someone says, hey, can we go see this home? Yep, pick some more. Let's go see them. So have them start favoriting homes, okay? And then you'll start telling, okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to do showings. And again, I don't care if you like the homes we go to. I don't care at all. I'll show you things that I think are not ideal, and I'll show you things that I think are ideal in the homes that we see. You tell me if you like it. And I'll give you a heads up. I don't run comps or talk to the listing agent before we go to homes. I'm telling this to these people in this buyer consult. And the reason I don't do that isn't because I'm not going to put in the effort until I know if you like it. Generally, it's that I show a lot of homes. I'm very busy and have a lot of clients. And about half the homes we walk into, the buyer knows within the first 2 minutes that they don't like it. If we're seeing 9 homes, that means 5 to 6 of them, you know very quickly that you don't like it. I save research for the ones you do like. So you tell me you like it. All right, now let me go figure out what comps look like. Let me figure out what the seller situation is. What kind of leverage do we have, right? So with the showings, you tell me what you like. I'll run comps. We'll put together an offer. Okay, so putting together an offer. I'm just going to put offer. The other thing that I tell them is like, hey, when it comes time for us to write an offer, don't be scared. I know it's stressful and it seems like you're making this commitment to buy a house. As a buyer, you're not making any commitments. You have every opportunity to change your mind without costing you a penny. So why do we make the offer? So Sarah, if you see a house that you like today, who decides if you buy the house? No. If the seller doesn't accept your offer, do you get to buy the house? So who decides if you buy the house? The seller. The seller, the people who own the house, they decide if you get to buy the house. If they don't accept and sign your offer, you don't get to buy it, right? So right now, the seller is in control. You're not. The purpose of an offer is to get under contract. So now I'm in control. The seller can't cancel. You can. Okay. So I tell this to people like, hey, writing offers shouldn't be stressful. I know it still will be a little bit because it's unknown to you, but it shouldn't be. Don't be scared of making an offer because we can change our mind if it's not the right fit. Okay. So making offers shouldn't be scary, and we'll make sure we feel good about it. Okay, so once your offer is accepted and we're under contract, then you'll deposit your earnest money. Generally, sellers expect to see something in the range of about 1% of the purchase price. Right? So if it's a $500,000 home, I would say anything like $4,000 up-ish is what they expect to see. Can you do it for less? Yeah, for sure. This depends on the scenario. But it's important that you explain to them how earnest money works. The seller doesn't get it. It is held at my brokerage, but it does come out of your account. So you're saying to the seller, hey, you don't get my money yet, but I like your home enough to have someone else pull it out of my account and hold it for a bit. Okay? And if we cancel, we refund you your earnest money. Right? You get a check back. Or we can just hold it and apply it to the next home that we go under contract on. You know, it's up to you. Okay? Then we'll do an inspection. So this is part of your due diligence, making sure that you know what you're buying and that it's a good decision. The inspector's going to find things wrong with the house, not ideal in the house, and this is where we do some negotiation. It's an opportunity for us to get more concessions, more price down, get repairs, whatever it might be. Okay? So this is a negotiation point right here. Okay? Then the appraisal. So the inspection is us making sure we know what we're buying and that we feel good about it. The appraisal is the lender making sure they know whether they're loaning on and do they feel good about it. Okay? Now, the inspection, they'll pay for anywhere from like $400 to $500, depending on the size of the home. The appraisal, they'll pay for $500 to $600, depending on the lender. Those are not refundable once they're paid for because the service has been provided. So this is different than earnest money, right? So if they've done an inspection and decide to cancel, they've spent $450, $500 that they can't get back. It's important that you walk through this with them ahead of time. They may get under contract and you find out they already gave you the earnest money, they don't have money for an inspection now. It's important that you have these conversations. Be like, hey, between now and when you close on a home, you've got the earnest money, you got the inspection and the appraisal to pay for. Do we have all of that? Okay, there are times where I've had my lender pay for the appraisal and bill them on the closing docs. Again, this is where it's worth it. Like I've got a lender who that's not a big deal. I can figure that out with him. The inspection, there are times where I've paid for it and they reimburse me at closing. Okay, not a big deal. But I need to know that ahead of time. Again, when you have these conversations, it says, Rowan's done this before, even if you haven't. Okay. Then we do a final walk. Final walkthrough is usually about 3 days before closing. And then, yeah, about 3 days before closing. And you're telling them this, right? This is when we go back through again to make sure that the home is still in the condition it was when I went under contract. There's not like new damage. They didn't remove the oven and now thinking that they can take it with them, right? The things that are included in the contract are still there, that kind of stuff. And I've had people take those. They didn't realize they had to leave them, right? The contract says that water softeners are supposed to always stay. Sometimes listing agents don't tell their clients those things. So, okay. And then we get through to closing. And so this is like the process, right? And this is what I take them through. That was a really quick rundown of what we're about to do, right? Again, the inspection period, we call it due diligence. This is where we make sure that the home is what you want. And if anything is not ideal, that we get what we can out of the seller that makes us feel better about it. And if we can't get you to feel good about it, okay, great, we're done. We'll walk away. Canceling is not a big deal. You don't need to feel like you're letting me down. I have buyer agents say to me all the time, or agents say to me all the time, when they're on the buy side, this makes no sense to me. They say, oh, I'm trying to save this transaction. What does that mean? If you're the buyer's agent, why do you care if this transaction goes through on this house? If there's a reason that it's falling apart, is that a good reason? Now, if I don't think it's a good reason, my client's like, oh, I'm like, okay, great. We can cancel if you want to cancel. I don't care. We'll find you a house. This thing that you're very worried about, I wouldn't be worried about that for these reasons. But if it worries you and we don't want, okay, we're good, right? But the due diligence period is where we're making sure you know what you're buying and that you feel good about it, okay? Oh, and then I tell them, sorry, this is something I always say. After at the financing appraisal deadline, right here is where your earnest money becomes non-refundable. So we are not going to go past that deadline unless we know that you're buying the house. So just know that's sort of our drop dead date. Okay?
That's when like they're serious, like they're not backing out.
That's when their earnest money goes non-refundable. So that if they did a $4,000 earnest money and they cancel after this date, they lose that earnest money. So yeah, like we're not going past this deadline unless you're for sure buying the house. If you have any concerns, let's address them real quick. Is there something that makes you feel better about it?
Do they usually get to that point, like, and still back out, or usually do they know before that they don't?
So usually if a deal falls apart when I'm on the buyer side, it's because we found something in the due diligence period that was either a big enough deal or it was a big enough deal and the sellers wouldn't take care of it. So like if you find foundation issues, there's not a lot a seller can do to make a buyer feel good about that. Right? You find out there's a sex offender living next door. So that's the other thing is make sure you tell your buyers like, hey, hop on the offender registry and look. Right? Like these are things for you to know. You can't change that. Right? And I tell people all the time, like, look, if you're LDS and the ward matters to you, part of your due diligence is go to the ward. If the neighborhood matters to you, go out and knock some doors in the neighborhood. The house I live in now, I knocked every door in that neighborhood so I knew who my neighbors were going to be and if we wanted to live there. Right? Not everybody does that, but that is important enough to me that I made it part of my due diligence. Right? Remember that this is not just about is the house in good shape. The due diligence period is everything encompassing the purchase of this house for me going to work. Okay? So again, as you talk about, like this is very basic, right? Also, I'll tell you when you get to like working with buyers, I don't know who's teaching that class, but if they are the ones finding and sending you every house you take them to see, you're not doing it right. Okay, you should be sending them homes. Please don't set them up on the automated listing alerts. Reason being, if I list a home that checks the boxes that you've set up, it'll send it to you that very first time that I set up the listing alert, okay? And then every time they do a price reduction, it's going to send it to you again. You already saw it. You already didn't like it. And now when you start to see those repeat things come up or a bunch of homes that you hate, like that just keep dropping, and guess what you're going to do? You're going to tune it out. You're going to stop looking. So I don't have any of my listing, and it takes me a lot more work. Every time I get listings on those listing alerts sent to me, I pull it open and I look, be like, is this what this guy's like and are looking for? And I decide if I'm sending to them or not. So that's just personal preference. Some agents like, oh, there's nothing wrong with them finding all the homes. Okay, that's fine. But one of the common complaints I get about people about their previous realtor was, I don't even know what they did. We found every home we went and saw. Okay, I'm done. I got to run. Do you guys have any other questions or anything before I go?